Good evening, everyone. Welcome to lecture 9 on Animal Kingdom. So, till now, we learned about various characteristics of Animal Kingdom and we learned about different phyla. So, till now, whatever we learned mainly about the non-chordates. So, whatever we learned about the non-chordates. From today's lecture, whatever we will learn in Animal Kingdom will be related to the chordates. What are the special characteristics of chordates? What are chordates? How chordates are further classified into different classes? What are the major classes of the chordates? We will learn about them. So chordates in itself is a large phylum. It consists of many animals, and this phylum is further divided into many other classes, like we will see about reptilia, aves, mammals. We humans also come under the phylum chordate. So from today's lecture, we will be learning about the chordates in the animal kingdom. So starting with what are the basic characteristics and coming to our this tabular form of the different bases of classification of animal kingdom. So starting with this, that they are all animals, that is they are multicellular, they are heterotrophic, they lack the cell wall. So cell wall is absent, unlike plants and animals. So cell wall is absent. They are heterotrophic, that is they cannot make their own food. They are multicellular, that is they are made up of many cells. Then we were dealing with the organisms that have an organ system level of organization and have a bilateral symmetry. Bilateral symmetry means only one axis of symmetry. This I repeat in every class so that you can remember these things easily, and these things always remain in your mind. And whenever the basic characteristics of any phyla are asked, like for example the phyla which has false body cavity like Escalminthes, phyla which is not having any symmetry, Sporifera, etc., so it should immediately come to your mind. So they have bilateral symmetry, and we were talking about the coelomates, that is they have the ones which have true coelom made up of mesoderm. So we have already dealt with annelids, arthropods, mollusks, echinoderms and hemichordata. Now we are dealing with the phylum. Now we will deal with the phylum chordata. Right? So if I have to talk about the chordata, in short, chordates are the animals that belong to the phylum chordates and kingdom Animalia. They have an organ system level of organization. They have a bilateral symmetry, that is a single axis of symmetry that can divide the complete organism into two equal halves or into two identical halves. Then they are true coelomates. They have a true body cavity which is made up of mesoderm, and the phylum to which these kind of animals belong is the chordates. And now we will learn about the specific characteristics of chordates, that how chordates are different from the remaining phyla that we have understood earlier. So all these phylum which are from Porifera to hemichordates come under the, like you can call them as non-chordates. Right? So these are non-chordates. While today, whatever we will learn about the phylum chordata. So what are chordates? So chordates are the animals that belongs to the phylum chordata. They have the deuterosome pattern of the development. We know what is the meaning of deuterostome. That is, the mouth is formed secondly, right? And the anus is formed first. So during the development, when there is a formation of blastopore, so this is a blastula, for example, this indentation is a blastopore. So during the development, when anus is developed near the blastopore and mouth is developed away from it, such organisms are deuterostome. So we know that along with chordates, echinoderms and hemichordates also have deuterostome pattern of development. So basically chordates, echinoderms and hemichordates are the deuterostomes. Remaining ones are the protostomes, where the mouth developed near the blastopore and it develops first during the development. However, the chordates have a different type of skeleton compared to the invertebrates. So here invertebrates, if I am talking about Here we mean to say non-chordates. So in invertebrates or in non-chordates, the skeleton is external and the muscles are attached to its inner surface, as we see in case of arthropods also, as we see in case of mollusk also. So in chordates, the skeleton is internal, as we can see in case of humans. We have an internal skeleton and the muscles are attached to the outer surface. So what is the advantage of this? So this allows the chordates to enjoy the freedom of movement. So we are able to move our hands, we are able to move our legs, we are able to shake it because our muscles are attached exterior to it, and it allows the freedom of movement and attainment of a larger size than the invertebrates because the muscles can develop, right? The bones will acquire a particular length and then they will stop growing, but the muscles will keep on developing. Therefore, it allows a larger size development in the vertebrates as compared to the non-chordates, if I say. So what are the basic characteristics of chordates? If I see the name itself, chordates, that is, they have a cord-like structure, string-like structure. So cord means string. So chordates means having string-like structure, which is a notochord. So all the chordates have once in their lifetime, if not in their complete lifetime, then once they should have a notochord, that we will see what it is. Then they should have a dorsal tubular nerve cord. In case of non-chordates, if you will see, this nerve cord, if present in any, is ventral and solid, right? While if I talk about the chordates, then in case of chordates, it is dorsal and it is tubular, that is hollow. The next point is they have pharyngeal pouches or pharyngeal gill slits. Then they have post-anal tail. So if you remember that in the last class, we were discussing about the hemichordates, right? So hemichordates, we studied that they share certain characteristics with chordates. However, they are not considered as chordates because they lack some of the basic characteristics, like they do not have post-anal tail. So all of these, without any exception, should be present in at least one of these stages in the life cycle of an animal to be considered as chordates. So if any animal that does not have notochord in its complete life cycle anytime, so that cannot be considered as a chordate. Or for example, if it has all the three things like notochord, it has a dorsal tubular nerve cord, it has pharyngeal pouches, but it has not got post-anal tail, then also it will not be considered as chordate. So these are the basic characteristics of chordate that should be present in any organism to be called as chordates. So this is just a figure to show that they have chordates have post-anal tail that may be modified later on in certain animals. They have a notochord. This red color structure is the notochord that in vertebrates is modified into the vertebral column. So they have a dorsal tubular nerve cord. This is important. This is a point of difference from the non-chordates. As I mentioned, that in non-chordates it is ventral and it is solid. But in case of chordates, for example, in humans, the nerve cord is present dorsally, and it is tubular. Then they have pharyngeal pouches that may be modified in certain higher animals for different functions. So we will learn about each of these characteristics one by one in detail. So what is a notochord? Notochord is present in all the chordate embryos as well as in some adult chordates. So when I say this, by this statement, I mean to say that in some chordates, notochord is not present. Notochord is not present in complete life cycle. Fine. So in some chordates, the notochord is not present in the complete life cycle, but is present in the embryonic stage only. So it is present in all the chordate embryos, but as well as in some adult embryos. Fine. So the notochord is a longitudinal flexible rod between the digestive tube and the nerve cord. So we can see here in this previous figure that this is the notochord. This is present in between the digestive tubes. So this develops further into the digestive tubes, and in between the nerve cord, the structure which is shown here in the red color is the notochord. So it is present between it is a flexible rod between the digestive tube and the nerve cord. It is composed of large fluid-filled cells encased in fairly stiff fibrous tissues. The notochord provides the skeletal support throughout most of the length of the chordate. And in larvae or adults that retain it, it also provides a firm but flexible structure against which muscles can work during the swimming. So therefore, it actually acts as a skeleton. It acts as a part of a skeletal support, and throughout the length of the chordate, that is we can see that it is present throughout the length of the chordate. Therefore, it can provide the support, skeletal support, and in some structure and in some adults where it is present, even in the adults also, it provides a flexible structure against which the muscles can work during the swimming. So in most vertebrates, a more complex joint skeleton develops around the ancestral notochord, and the adult only have the remnants of the embryonic notochord. So in some of the vertebrates, for example, as I was mentioning, in most of the vertebrates, the remnants of the notochord are present in the adult, and the notochord can be seen or observed only in the embryonic stage. Later on, it develops a more complex jointed skeleton around the ancestral notochord. So in humans, as I mentioned, the notochord is reduced and forms part of the gelatinous disc, which is sandwiched between the vertebrae. So in humans, we have the vertebral column and the notochord is reduced. Fine. So the second point is that we have a dorsal hollow nerve cord. So the nerve cord of a chordate embryo develops from a plate of ectoderm that rolls into a tube located dorsal to the notochord. So this is present dorsal to the notochord, or it is present dorsally. So the nerve cord is present dorsally. It is hollow, unlike the non-chordates where the nerve cord is solid. The resulting dorsal hollow nerve cord is unique to chordates. This is very important, as I was mentioning in the lecture early in the lecture also, that the resulting dorsal hollow nerve cord is unique characteristic of chordates. It is not present in non-chordates. Other animal phyla have, as I was mentioning, have solid nerve cords, and in most cases they are ventrally located. The nerve cord of a chordate embryo develops into the central nervous system, the brain and the spinal cord. So basically, the nerve cord further develops into the brain and the spinal cord that forms the central nervous system in the chordates. The next point is the pharyngeal slits or the clefts. So in all chordate embryos, a series of pouches separated by grooves forms along the sides of the pharynx. So in most chordates, these grooves are known as the pharyngeal clefts that develops into the slits that open to outside the body. Now, what is the function of this pharyngeal slits? That it allows the water entering the mouth to exit the body without passing the entire digestive tract. So basically, the water enters through the mouth and it exits the body without going through the digestive tract. So what is the function is? The function of this is to absorb the oxygen which is present in the water. So pharyngeal gill slits function as a suspension feeding devices in many invertebrate chordates. Invertebrates, except the vertebrates with limbs, that is tetrapods. So tetrapods are the vertebrates with the limbs. So in the vertebrates, except tetrapods, that is, except those animals that have the limbs. So in such vertebrates, what is the function of these pharyngeal gill slits is that these slits and the structures that support them have been modified for gas exchange. And then they are known as gill slits. So they function in the respiration. So invertebrates, like for example, we know that fish is all the fish, amphibia, which do not have limbs, that is, which are not tetrapods. In such cases, the gill slits, pharyngeal pouches, has been modified into the gill slits, which allows for the gaseous exchange and therefore helps in the respiration. If I talk about the tetrapods, that is the vertebrates with the limbs, the pharyngeal clefts do not develop into the slits. Instead, they play an important role in developing parts of the ear and other structures in the head and the neck. So in humans also, the auditory canal, which it is developed from the pharyngeal gill slits during the time of development. So the pharyngeal clefts do not form the slits. Basically, the clefts instead form another important structure, like for example, some of these structures in ear or other structures in the head and neck is formed by the pharyngeal gill slits or the clefts, which are present in the vertebrates. So all the chordates have these pharyngeal pouches that are present along the sides of the pharynx. Pharyngeal pouch or pharyngeal clefts, they are present around the pharynx. In most chordates, they are called as pharyngeal clefts and they develop into the slits. For example, in the vertebrates that do not have the limbs, that is, except tetrapods, in other vertebrates, these pharyngeal clefts function as gill slits, helping in the respiration, providing the exchange of gases. And if I talk about the tetrapods, for example, these tetrapods, that is the vertebrate that have the limbs, their pharyngeal clefts do not develop into the slit. Instead, their pharyngeal clefts develop into the other part of the ear or in the other structures which are present in the head and the neck region. So this is the function of the pharyngeal gill slits or the pharyngeal clefts which are present in the chordates. The next important feature is the muscular post-anal tail. So chordates must have a tail that extends posterior to the anus. Although in many species it is greatly reduced during the embryonic development. For example, in humans also we do not have tail. Like our tail is highly reduced during the embryonic development, although we have the remnants of that. But now, since we do not require this tail is highly reduced during the embryonic development, but it should be present at some stage of the life. So in contrast, most non-chordates have a digestive tract extending nearly the whole body length. The chordate tail contains skeletal elements and muscles, and it helps propel many aquatic species in the water. Therefore, in fish also we see the tail. So what is the function of that? It helps the fish to propel itself in the water. That is, it allows swimming also. It provides direction while swimming. Therefore, there are many functions of this post-anal tail. But in higher chordates, since this tail, like for example in humans, we do not need such function, like we do not need this in swimming also. Since we are mostly terrestrial, therefore, the function, or in monkey, they might need a tail. In arboreal habitat, they might need a tail in order to cling themselves to the trees, but we do not need that. Therefore, in higher chordates or in humans, this tail has highly reduced, and in most of the cases, wherever the tail is present, it contains the skeletal elements and the muscles that helps many vertebrates or many aquatic species to propel in the water. So, what are the basic differences between the chordates and the non-chordates? So, till now, what we were learning till the last lecture was about the non-chordates. From today, we have started with the chordates. So, the first and the foremost thing is the notochord. So the notochord, which is a cord-like structure, which is a string-like structure, which is present dorsally, is present in the chordates, while the notochord is absent in the non-chordates. Then we have central nervous system, which is developed through the dorsal nerve cord. So the central nervous system is dorsal. It is hollow because it is developed from the dorsal hollow nerve cord, and it is single. While if I talk about the non-chordates, the central nervous system is ventral. That is, it is present ventrally. It is solid and it is double. Pharynx perforated by the gill slits. We know the pharyngeal gill slits. So these are the gill slits that perforate the pharynx. While if I talk about the non-chordates, the gill slits are absent. Heart, if like in chordates, the heart is present and it is present ventrally. While if I talk about the non-chordates, the heart is present dorsally. So this is important that in case of non-chordates, if heart is present, it is present dorsally, and the nervous system, that is the the nerve cord is present ventrally. While in case of chordates, so if I talk about chordates, the heart is present ventrally and the nerve cord is present dorsally. While if I talk about the non-chordates, the heart is present dorsally, while the nerve cord is present ventrally. Right? So these are the contrasting characters between the chordates and the non-chordates. And the last one is that the post-anal tail is present in the chordates, while the post-anal tail is absent in the chordates. In the non-chordates. So in non-chordates, it is absent, post-anal tail is absent, while in chordates, the post-anal tail is present. So these are the basic characteristics that you need to remember, that what is the differences between the phylum chordate and the animals belonging to different phyla under the non-chordates. So what is the division? So this is a division of the phylum chordate. So first of all, what is the basic characteristic of phylum chordates? So the complete phylum chordate should have 4 characteristics. The first is the presence of a notochord, presence of dorsal hollow nerve cord, fine. Then they have pharyngeal gill slits. Then they have post-anal tail, which is present posterior to the anus. Fine. So these 4 characteristics will be present in all the subphylums and in the classes of the phylum chordata. So this phylum chordata is further divided into the urochordates, cephalochordate, and subphylum vertebrate. This urochordates and cephalochordates are together called as protochordates. Okay. So this animals belonging to phylum urochordates and cephalochordates, they can be considered as protochordates. Then the phylum vertebrata is divided into different sections like agnatha and gnathostome. So agnatha that lack jaws, then these are the ones that have jaws. So we will learn about these in details, but for the introduction, I am just letting you know that how these are classified. So the vertebrata are classified on the basis of whether they have jaws or they do not have jaws. Then one of the class that we will see under the section agnatha is cyclostomata. Under gnathostomata, where they have jaws, it can further be divided into 2 classes, that is superclass Pisces and the superclass Tetrapoda, which have limbs. So superclass Pisces is divided into chondrichthyes and the osteichthyes, that is, they have a cartilaginous skeleton, as the name suggests. Osteich is always related to bone. So they have a bony skeleton, that is, they are bony fish. So cartilaginous fish and bony fish, right? Now the tetrapods, which are that have the limbs, includes amphibia, reptilia, aves, and mammalia. We will see what are the differentiating characters in each of these. But for now, we can say that phylum chordata, which has animals that have a post-anal tail, notochord, presence of pharyngeal gill slits, and they have the dorsal hollow nerve cord. It can be divided into 3 subphylum. The first is cephalochordates, second is urochordates, third one is vertebrata. This vertebrata is again divided into two sections, agnatostomata, that agnatha, which lack the jaws. Second one is gnatostomata, which have the jaws. Section agnatha is further divided, and one of the class is the class cyclostomata. Then in gnatostomata, if I talk about the animals that have the jaw, it can further be divided into two superclasses. So first superclass is the superclass Spices, that is of the fish, that can further be divided into class Chondrichthyes and class Osteichthyes based on whether their skeleton is cartilaginous or they are bony fish. Then the other superclasses of the tetrapods. Tetrapod. Tetra means four, poda means appendages, right? We know about this. Like in arthropod also we see that what are arthropods? The ones which have jointed appendages. So tetrapods means which have four appendages, four limbs, and these appendages here are the limbs basically. So we humans, for example, we are tetrapod. We belong to class mammals, and we have four limbs like two hands and two legs. So therefore, the superclass tetrapod is further divided into further classes like amphibia, reptilia, aves, and mammals. We will see about each of these subphylum and classes one by one in the lecture. So, starting with the cephalopods, these are the earliest diverging group of the living chordates, and animals are mostly the lancellates. So they belongs to the subphylum Cephalochordata. As the names, so the lancet name is from their blade-like shape, right? So Cephalochordata, in this, the notochord is present in the brain region, in the cephalic region. You can see they have a dorsal tubular nerve cord. They have a notochord, which is present below this, and then they have other structures. They have pharyngeal gill slits. They have a caudal fin, dorsal fin. So they have post-anal tail also. Fine. So these marine chordates, which are only a few centimeters long, are named for their resemblance to a lancet, which is a small two-edged surgical knife. So if you will see, it resembles to that, and therefore they are named as lancet. They belongs to the subphylum Cephalochordata and phylum Chordata. Lancets are found in the shallow water along most coast, where they usually lie partly buried in the sandy or muddy substrate with only their anterior mouth. So this is the oral hood with tentacles, the anterior mouth and gill apparatus exposed, and remaining body is inside the mud. They feed on microscopic particles filtered out of the constant stream of water that passes the mouth and passes through the gill slits into an atrium that opens into the atriopore. So basically what happens is they are filter feeders. So food enters along with the water, and along with the stream of the water, the food enters into the mouth. So it enters into the mouth, and from there it passes through the gill slits. So basically it passes through the gill slits here, and through there it passes into the atrium and ultimately into the opening, which is the atriopore. So the food that enters the mouth passes through the gill slits into the atrium that opens at the atriopore. So it opens at the atriopore. Fine. So this is the cephalochordate normal basic morphology. We can see that they have pharyngeal gill slits, gill bars and slits. Then they have notochord, which is one of the important features of the chordate. Then they have dorsal nerve cord, and they have post-anal tail. So these are the cephalochords. Example include lancet. Lancelets are named so because they are similar in shape for their blade-like shape. So they are similar to two-edged surgical knife. Therefore, they are known as the lancelet. Lancelets retain the four chordate characteristics, and so basically this is what I was telling, that as an adult, these retain the four important characteristics, and therefore they are very important in comparative anatomy and evolutionary studies. In lancelets, the notochord extends from tail to the head, accounting for their group name, the cephalochordates, because the notochord extends from the tail to the head. And very important feature is that the notochord is present throughout the life. Fine. So the notochord is present throughout the life. In addition to the four features of all the chordates, segmentation is also present in them. In cephalochordates, the segmentation is present and the muscles are segmentally arranged, and the dorsal tubular nerve cord has periodic branches. Segmentation may not be an important feature in lancelets, but it is important feature in vertebrates, where it leads to the specialization of the parts. So different segments contains different body parts, and they have different specialized functions, as we see in case of annelids and arthropods. Right? So in arthropods, in some the head is segmented, in most the thorax or abdomen is segmented. So the segmentation may not be an important feature in the lancelets, but in most of the vertebrates, it leads to the specialization of the body parts. So in addition to the four features of the chordates, what are these four features? The presence of notochord, presence of pharyngeal gill slits, presence of post-anal tail, and the presence of dorsal tubular nerve cord are the four features, right? So along with this, the other thing is that the segmentation is present. The muscles are segmentally arranged, and the dorsal tubular nerve cord has periodic branches. The other thing which we learn about cephalochordates is that the name. So the cephalochordates, right? So why they are named so? Cephalo means brain, right? Head. So from tail to head, there is an extension of notochord. So notochord is present from tail to head, and it is present throughout the life, even in the adult stage. This is important. So it is present throughout the life. Fine. So these are the important features of the animals that belong to the subphylum cephalochordate and phylum chordates. Example includes branchiostoma, amphioxus, or lancelet. So branchiostoma, which is also known as amphioxus or lancelet. Amphioxus is the common name, and lancelet is also a common name for the animals branchiostoma, that are cephalochordates. So we see this is an example of lancelet. So you can see in the figure. So this is about the cephalochordates. The next subphylum is the Urochordata. Tunicates come under the subphylum Urochordata, and they are more closely related. So unlike from as compared to cephalochordates, Urochordates are more closely related to other chordates. Like if I talk about their relation with the fish, aves, mammals, so they are more closely related as compared to the lancelets or cephalochordates. Fine. The chordate characteristic of tunicates are most apparent during their larval stage. So as I was mentioning, the difference between the cephalo and uro is that chordate character present throughout the life. In urochordates, the chordate characters are present only in larval stage. Fine. So in adults, the chordate character is reduced, but in the larval stage, all the four chordate characters are present, and they are more closely related to the other chordates as compared to the cephalochordates. So in many species, the larva uses its tail muscles and notochord to swim through water in search of a suitable substrate to settle, which is guided by the cues it receives from the light and gravity sensitive cells. So it is light and gravity sensitive cells, and the larva once find a substrate, it settles there and develops into an adult. So mostly they are in adult stage, they are mostly sessile, sedentary. Once a tunicate has settled, it undergoes a radical metamorphosis in which many of its characters, chordate characters, disappear. So during the process of metamorphosis, that is from the larval stage to the adult when it was getting converted, so the chordate characters reduced. Chordate character reduces. Fine. So the chordate character reduces. For example, its tail and notochord are reabsorbed. Its nervous system degenerates and its remaining organs rotate at 90 degrees. So therefore, whatever the chordate characters were present in the larval stage, the adults do not show those chordate characters. Their tails and notochord get resorbed into the body. Its nervous system gets degenerate, so they do not have now the nerve cord, well-developed nerve cord, just what is the peculiar feature of the chordates. So therefore, as compared to the cephalochordates, these chordates do not have their chordate characteristics throughout the life, and most of them are lost during the time of metamorphosis, that is when the larva gets developed into the adult. So this is a tunicate larva. So the larva of this tunicate is a free swimming but non-feeding tadpole in which all the four main characteristics, like you can see here, which are highlighted. Notochord is present, and they have a dorsal hollow nerve cord. They have pharyngeal gill slits. They have tail. The remaining structures like incurrent siphon, excurrent siphon are also present in adults, but adults do not have notochord or tail. Their nervous system also gets degenerated. So they do not have notochord or tail. Their nervous system also gets degenerate. They have a degenerated nervous system. Then they have pharyngeal gill slits, etc. Fine. So as an adult, a tunicate draws in water through an in. What is the function of incurrent siphon? Obviously, it draws the water in through the incurrent siphon. And water is then passes through the pharyngeal gill slits into a chamber called the atrium, and then it exits through the excurrent siphon. The pharynx is lined by numerous cilia whose beating creates a current of water that moves into the pharynx and out the numerous gill slits, the only chordate characters that remains in the adult. So the pharyngeal gill slits is the only chordate character that remains in the adult. Rest, there is a resorption of tail and notochord, and there is a degeneration of the nervous system. But the pharyngeal gill slits is the only chordate character present in the adults. Cilia transport food particles filtered from the water by the mucous net to the esophagus. The anus empties into the excurrent siphon. When attacked, some tunicate species shoot out a jet of water through their excurrent siphon, earning them the informal name of sea squids. So Acidia, Salpa, Doliolum, these are the examples. So what happens is that when sometimes they feel attacked, so what happened is that these tunicate species shoot out a jet of water. So a jet of water is shoot out. So therefore they are also known as sea squid. Right? So they are also known as sea squid through the excurrent siphon. Right? So this is the structure of the adult. You can see here the water flows through the incurrent siphon. So this is the incurrent siphon which is attached to the mouth. So the water flows through this. Then it enters into the pharyngeal gill slits, and this is a pharynx with the numerous slits, and it is then moved out of the body through the excurrent siphon, right, which is attached to the anus. So the undigested food also is released into the excurrent siphon by the anus. So in adult, the prominent pharyngeal gill slits function is suspension feeding, but other chordate characters are not obvious. You can see here. This is an adult tunicate or sea squid is a sessile animal, and examples include the Acidia, Salpa or Doliolum. So this was about the cephalochordates. So what we urochordates. So what we learn about urochordates and cephalochordates is that in urochordates, the chordate structures are not present throughout their life. Except the pharyngeal gill slits, which is present throughout the life, the other three chordate characteristics, like the notochord is resorbed, the tail is resorbed, there is the degeneration of the nervous system, while in cephalochordates, the notochord is present from head, tail to head throughout the life, and throughout the life, the notochord is present. Examples of cephalochordates includes the lens flare, while examples of urochordates include Acidius, alpa, and Doliolum. The next major subphylum is the subphylum Vertebrata. So, the members of the subphylum Vertebrata possess notochord during the embryonic period, but not in the time of the adults. So, in adults, the notochord is not present, but during the embryonic period, notochord is present. As I mentioned, once in a lifetime, it should have all the characteristics. The notochord is present during the embryonic period. A cartilaginous or bony vertebral column in the adult replaces the notochord. So depending on whether it is cartilaginous or bony, it was further classified. So a cartilaginous or bony vertebral column in the adult replaces the notochord. So the notochord is replaced by the vertebral column. Thus all the vertebrates, we can see this is very important line. This will be asked whether in the form of true or false, that which is a correct statement. So thus all the vertebrates are chordates because the vertebral column is itself developed from the notochord. All the vertebrates are chordate, but all the chordates are not vertebrates because in all the chordates vertebral column is not formed. Fine. So till now we were learning about so basically what I can say is that the cephalochordates and urochordates, these two are the invertebrate chordates. Fine. We can say this also, that these two are the invertebrate chordates. They have chordate structures, but they do not have vertebra or vertebral column developed. Therefore, the cephalochordates and urochordates are the invertebrates, but they are chordates. The remaining phyla, which we were studying till the last class, that is still hemichordate, they were all non-chordates, but the urochordates and cephalochordates are chordates, but still they are invertebrates. Fine. So all the phyla till cephalochordates or urochordates are invertebrates, but till hemichordate they are all non-chordates. Cephalochordates and urochordates are the invertebrate, do not have any vertebral column developed. So they are chordates without any vertebral column. Therefore, they are invertebrate chordates. Beside the basic chordate characters, what are the chordate characters here? The presence of notochord, presence of dorsal hollow nerve cord, presence of pharyngeal gill slits, and the presence of postgeneral tail. The vertebrates have a ventral muscular heart with 2, 3, or 4 chambers, kidneys for excretion and osmoregulation, and paired appendages, which may be fins or the limb. So in tetrapods, it is limb. In fish, it is fins. Fine. So the other characteristics beside the main chordate characteristics, we will see what are those. So the first is the vertebral column. So the embryonic notochord is generally replaced by a vertical column that is composed of individual vertebra. So we have vertebral column and that develops from the notochord. Fine. So we have vertebral column that develops from the notochord. The remnants of the notochord are seen in the invertebral disc, which are compressible cartilaginous pads between the vertebrae. So in the vertebrae, between the vertebrae, you can see the remnants of the notochords, which are the invertebral disc, and that are comparatively compressible cartilaginous pads. The vertebral column is a part of a flexible but strong endoskeleton. It proves that vertebrates are segmented. So the individual vertebrae are developed. We know we have different vertebrae. So the vertebral column is a part of a flexible but strong exoskeleton, proving that the vertebrates are segmented. Right? So this is the, like for example, we have different vertebra like cervical, thoracic, lumbar, sacral. So these are the different vertebra that are formed from the notochord. So the notochord is replaced by a vertebral column that composed of the individual vertebrae. So this is the replacement of the notochord by the vertebra. So this is the ectoderm and this is the neural tube which has been shown. So beside this we have the notochord. So during the embryonic development, what happens is that the vertebral arch develops around the neural tube. So this is a vertebral arch that develops around the neural tube. So this vertebral body develops around the notochord. So the vertebral body starts developing around the notochord. These are the blood vessels that come here, and ultimately it leads to the formation of the ribs. This is the arch which is formed. This is the vertebral body which is formed and ultimately replacing the notochord. So during vertebral development, the vertebrae replace the notochord and surrounds the neural tube. So you can see here that it surrounds the neural tube. So we have brain and spinal cord, right? Which is surrounded by the vertebra, the spinal cord. Right? The result is a flexible vertebral column which protects the nerve cord. The term spine refers to the vertebral column plus the nerve cord. Right? So this spinal cord is basically the vertebra plus the nerve. That complete thing is known as the spinal cord. As I mentioned, the spinal cord consists of the vertebra. Right? So during embryonic development, the vertebra replaces the notochord and surrounds the neural tube. And ultimately, it leads to the degeneration, or you can say that it results in the flexible vertebral column formation, which protects the nerve cord. And this nerve cord plus the vertebrae are known as the spinal cord. The second important characteristic is the skull. So the main axis of the internal skeleton consists not only the vertebral column, but also a skull that encloses and protects the brain. We know that our vertebra is attached to the skull also. So during vertebrate evolution, the brain increases in complexity, and specialized regions like our brain, different regions of our brain like forebrain, midbrain, hindbrain, different regions are modified or are developed to carry out this specific function. Like some of the, like our visual sensation is through the occipital region, which is present which is a different region than the forebrain. So therefore, different regions in the brain are specialized to carry out these specific function. And during vertebrate evolution, the brain increases in complexity and specialized regions develop to carry out these specific functions. The high degree of civilization is accompanied by the complex sense organs. So the eyes develops as an outgrowth of the brain. So now we do not have eye spots, we have proper eyes which are developed. The ears are primarily equilibrium devices in aquatic vertebrates, but they also function as sound wave receivers in land vertebrates, therefore aids in hearing. Fine. So in land vertebrates, it provides equilibrium as well as it aids in hearing. In addition, many vertebrates possess well-developed sense of smell and taste. They have a well-developed sense of smell and taste. The next is the endoskeleton. The vertebrate skeleton, which is either the cartilage or the bone, is a living tissue that grows with the animal. So endoskeleton is a living tissue which can be cartilage or bone. Cartilage from the the bone from the osteocytes, and cartilage develops from the chondriocytes. Fine. So it also protects internal organs and serves as a place of attachment for muscles. So endoskeleton, as I mentioned earlier, also is an important characteristics of vertebrates. In the non-chordates, we have exoskeleton. Fine. While in case of vertebrates, in chordates, we have endoskeleton. Together, the skeleton and muscles form a system that permits rapid and efficient movement, also allowing the growth. Two pairs of appendages are characteristic, which typically have pectoral and pelvic fins, while terrestrial tetrapods have four limbs. Fine. So tetrapods, as I mentioned, tetra means four, pods means appendages of foot, appendages, if I say. So the tetrapods have four limbs, while fish typically have pectoral and pelvic fins. The next is the important characteristics of vertebrates along with the other chordate character is the presence of the internal organs that I discussed in the slides, introduction slides of vertebrates also, that they have a large coelom, they have a complete digestive tract. The blood is contained entirely within the blood vessels. Therefore, what we can say is that they have a closed circulatory system. The blood does not flow in directly, but flows within the blood vessels, which are arteries, veins, capillaries, etc. Arteries, veins, and capillaries. So, therefore, the circulatory system is called the closed circulatory system. Respiratory system consists of gills or lungs, which are used to obtain the oxygen from the environment. The kidneys are important excretory and water regulatory organs that conserve or rid the body of water as necessary. So basically, excretory system consists of kidneys. Sexes are generally separate. Reproduction is usually the sexual reproduction. So I'll just discuss in short about the class Cyclostomata, which is the agenathostomes, that is they lack the jaws. So the cyclostomata are the modified and degenerate offshoot of the primitive vertebrate stock. Due to their circular mouth, they are called as the cyclostomata. So they have a circular mouth. So you will see they have a circular mouth. So due to this, they are called as the cyclostomata. Right? The body is round and elongated like an eel. Paired fins are absent. Median fins are with cartilaginous fin rays. No paired appendages are present. Skin is soft. Skin is smooth. It is devoid of any scales. It is important that it does not have any scales. Spleen is absent. The exoskeleton is absent. Obviously, the endoskeleton is cartilaginous so the exoskeleton is absent, while the endoskeleton is cartilaginous with no bones. The notochord is present throughout their lives. So this is important that the notochord is present throughout their lives. The digestive system is devoid of any stomach. Nostril is single and median. So only one nostril is present in the center and it is median. The gills are 5 to 16 in pairs. Heart is two-chambered. So they have a two-chambered heart. Brain is visible. It is not completely enclosed in the skull. Lateral line acts as a sense organ. About 10 pairs of cranial nerves are present. Sexes are separate. However, some hagfish are believed to be hermaphrodites, that is, they have both male and female within the same organism. A pair of mesonephric kidneys make up the excretory system. Development may be direct without any larval stage or indirect, that is, with the larval stage. Examples include petromyzon, which is the lamprey, and the magazine, which is the hagfish. So these belongs to the class Cyclostomata and they are agenathostomes, that is, they are agenatha, that is, they lack the jaws. So jaws are absent in them. So they can be considered as jawless fish. Fine. But they are not placed under the superclass Pisces. They are placed separately. However, they can be considered as jawless fish. Fine. In the next class, we will see the gnathostomes that includes the superclass Pisces. That is a fish that may be further divided into chondrichthyes and osteichthyes based on whether they have a cartilaginous endoskeleton or the bony endoskeleton. Then we have reptilia, aves, and mammals. So this was about the vertebrates. Even short, if I'll try to just recapitulate this. So phylum Chordata is divided into three different subphylum, which is Urochordates, Cephalochordates, and Vertebrata. Urochordates and cephalochordates are not vertebrates. They are invertebrates, but they are chordates. So they do not have vertebral column, but they have all the chordate characteristics. However, the chordate characteristics in case of urochordates is present only in the embryonic stage, but in cephalochordates, it is present throughout the life. So the cephalochordates have their notochord developed from the tail to head, but in urochordates, Only the pharyngeal gill slits can be seen in the adults, but the remaining three characteristics like the tail, notochord or dorsal nerve cord is not visible, and only the remnants can be seen in the adults. Then we see about the vertebrates. So in vertebrates, we see that the notochord develops into a vertebral column that allows more specialization and more allows the segmentation. Then this vertebrate was divided into different sections like agenatha and gnathostomata. So agenatha are the ones that lack jaws, and we learned about the class cyclostomata. Why they are named so? They are named so because of their circular mouth. So they lack because of their circular mouth. So they are called as the cyclostomata. Example includes the hagfish or the myxid. Right? Then we will learn about the gnathostomes in the next class, where we will learn about the superclass Pisces, that is further divided into class Chondrichthyes and Osteichthyes. Then we will learn about the superclass Tetrapoda, that includes amphibia, reptiles, aves, and mammalia. So with this, I would like to end today's session, and in the next lecture, we will learn about the vertebrates, the gnathostomes. So thank you for attending.